In this video, we're going to take a look at the home ribbon. So up here. It's a lot like the home ribbon in Word, where it's a lot of the formatting and things that we're going to use most of the time. But there's a lot of different features in Excel than there is in Word or PowerPoint. So first thing we have is still up here. We have the cut and copy and paste and Format Painter. So Format Painter, if I took a column here and it had a format that I like, I could then click on Format Painter, select somewhere else, and it would take the format from one place to the other, a lot like it did in Word. A couple different things though we have in a Format Painter is if in here I'm going to copy a cell and I'm going to go into Paste Special, which has a bunch of options for it. And we can actually copy formulas from one place to another. So this wouldn't copy any of the values of the formats, but it's actually just the formula. So if I have a cell that already looks a way that I like, I can take a formula from somewhere else, put it in that cell, and the calculation will change, but it would still look the same way. I can also do values. And the interesting thing about values is I might want to take the result of a calculation in one spot and move it to another spot without having the formula go with it. For example, if I did something like the formula I've been using all the time, 2 plus 3 times 4, okay, we got 14. If I copy this and I go over here and I do a paste special and I copy the formulas, we can see that this cell has the same formulas as what we had before. If on the other hand I copy that and I do paste special and I do values, sorry, and I did it in the spot I didn't want to, but that's okay. Take this, copy somewhere else, paste special, values, and say OK. Now these cells look the same, but this is a formula and this is just the value 14 because it actually took the result of that formula and pasted it in there. Other things we can do with paste special, we can just copy the formats, so we can copy the color of one thing to another. It does exactly the same thing as a Format Painter. Comments are validation, which we'll talk about later in the course. But the other thing is we could add, subtract, multiply, or divide. So we can actually take this cell. I'm going to go over here into my first column, which has values 1 to 5. I'm going to paste special, and I'm just going to add them. So what this is going to do is going to take the 14 that I have here and add it to all the cells that we have here. So actually the values are 15, 16, 17, 18, 19 now. They're 14 larger than what they were before. So I can actually increase things. So this might be useful if I want to add 5% to the cost of every one of my products. I could multiply by 1.05. If I adjust the things by $1, I can add them over. Or if I wanted to add dates and add a week to it, I could add 1 week to every date. So it's something interesting that we do in the Format Painter, or the paste special that we do in Excel that we wouldn't have in Word. Other things we have here is we have font. So just like we had before, we can change the font to be something that's interesting in the size, and we can increase and lower it in bold and italics and underline, just like we did in Word. Other things that we have is we have borders around a cell. So this is kind of like what we did in tables in Word, but here we could take a cell and put all borders around it. So we can highlight this, and we do all borders. We could highlight a column, and we can just do a thick border around it. We can highlight different areas, and we can do different types of borders. And if we want to do something custom, we can actually just go in here too and choose we can draw the border and actually click on the cells that we want it to be, or we could actually do more borders and have the dialog box pop up and have infinite control and stuff in here. So how borders work is you select a style, you select a place that you want it to be, say OK, and it changes the format for that. The next thing we have in the home ribbon is a bunch of formatting for where text is laid out. So I'm actually going to make this cell quite a bit taller. Just do that by selecting the bottom of the row and dragging that. And I'm going to make it quite a bit wider. Okay. And we notice that this text is on the bottom right. If I wanted to format it differently, because it was a label or it was a big cell or something like that, I can actually select the middle, and that's going to move it up vertically, or the top to be at the top. And we can have left, center, and right justified. Okay, so this could be centered both vertically and horizontally. Another thing we could actually do is we can actually change the orientation of the numbers and how they go. And actually, if I go back into my format, I can actually drag the text to be in whatever direction I want it to be. Okay, and the text moves that way. So this is nice if you ever have something you want it on an angle, you want to highlight a range of things and put it on an angle so that it shows up better. Okay. Merging and centering. This is if I wanted to have these three cells together, I could merge and center. It's going to give me a concern because I have multiple data, but I don't care. And now this is just like one cell. So if I'm moving over, this is now one cell. All three of these cells together are one thing. They only hold now one value. And if we click it again, and we get back to three individual cells. So we might do this for formatting when we're doing something and it's going to be a multiple value. Right. We can also wrap text, because if I put a whole bunch of text inside of a cell, it shows up fine, but if I put something in the cell beside it, I've lost stuff. And even if I make this cell taller, I lose it. So if I wrap text, I can now see all the stuff inside of it. So if you're putting a lot of stuff in a cell, you might want to wrap the text. So by default, I'm going to go to a new clean sheet here. If I put in a number, it's right justified. If I put in text, it's left justified, because that's really read left to right. So I might want these to look the same, so I could do a center, I could do a left justified, and I could do a right justified. Okay. The other thing I could do, is here I'll make them left justified, is I can actually indent them a little bit so that this text starts on the left-hand side, but this text has moved in an indent or two or three. Okay, so we can indent text. The other thing we do with numbers is generally with numbers, we can change it to be a different way. So here we're going to have a number with decimal places. We're going to have currency, we're putting a dollar sign in front of it. A counting symbol, which also has a dollar sign in front of it, but if the value was negative, it's going to show up that way. We can also turn these into dates or percentages. So percentage is a really big percentage. We do a fraction, which in our case doesn't work, but if this was this, we could do it as a fraction and it would show it as a half. Okay, it doesn't work for all numbers. And we have a whole bunch of things, including some custom ways of doing stuff for different things, whether we're going to have a red number or not. So here we have a negative number, and if we did a custom format to choose a red number, and if they're negative, they show up red, and if they're positive, it shows up black. Okay, so we can do a whole bunch of number formatting here. We also do conditional formatting and formatting as a table. I'm not going to do that right now. But what we could do is here I can select a row, and we can insert a row in between. Or if I select a column, we can insert a column in between. The other way of doing that, if I select a row, I can say right, and I can say insert. It's the same, does the same thing. Or even if I select a cell, I could say insert, but then it's going to ask me what I want, whether entire row, entire column, or if I want to just move some stuff around. Okay. So that's the insert. Once we've inserted a row, we can also delete that row, or if we had a cell, we could delete the cell and it would do that for us. We also have some functions here, so we're going to go back to the other one. This kind of got really messy, so I can now highlight everything, and I can now clear the formats, which gets rid of all the stuff that was there. I can clear the contents, which means that that isn't there anymore. Get rid of comments or hyperlinks. So if I put in something like that, it's underlined and a hyperlink, and if I click on it, it's actually going to go to that website. So I'm going to go to that cell and I can clear the hyperlinks, and now it's no longer something I can click on. Okay, not going to take me to a web page. Okay. Or I can just, if I want to, I'm done with it, I want to start over, I can just hit clear all and everything's gone, and all these values are now cleared. The last thing is fill is just like we're doing that, the autofill that we did. And AutoSum, this is a quick little thing. So here I'm going to do it on autofill. I got 1, 2, 4, 5. I go down here, and if I click on AutoSum, it's actually going to add up the whole column for me. So I can do that fairly quickly. That's the home ribbon.